I always thought my life was a straight line. Predictable, steady, like the hum of the refrigerator in our kitchen. My name's Daniel, and I'd been married to Lisa for 12 years. She was the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. Blonde hair that fell in soft waves, green eyes that sparkled when she laughed, and a smile that could melt ice. We met in college back when I was a lanky engineering major and she was studying art history. I wasn't her type, or so I thought. Too quiet, too plain. But she picked me out of a crowded room at a party and said, "You look like you think too much." That was it. We were inseparable after that. Our life together wasn't flashy, but it was ours. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, planted a garden she tended obsessively, and filled our weekends with quiet routines. Coffee on the porch, movie nights, the occasional hike. I worked as a structural engineer, spending my days designing bridges and buildings, while she taught art at a local community college. We didn't have kids, not yet, though we talked about it sometimes. She'd say, "Maybe next year," and I'd nod, trusting her timing. I trusted everything about her. But lately, something felt off. It started small, little gaps in her stories. Moments when she'd stare at her phone with a faint smile I didn't recognize. She'd say she was texting a colleague about lesson plans, but her fingers moved too fast, too secretive. I'd ask, "Everything okay?" And she'd laugh it off, brushing her hair behind her ear. A nervous habit I'd always found endearing. "Of course, Dan. Just work stuff." I believed her because doubting Lisa felt like doubting the sun would rise. Then came the late nights. She'd started staying late at the college, claiming she was prepping for a new exhibit. I'd wait up, dinner cold on the table, watching the clock tick past 10, 11, midnight. When she'd come home, she smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar, like cedar and musk, a scent I didn't own. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd give me vague answers, her eyes darting away. "Tiring," she'd say, then head straight to the shower. I told myself it was nothing. People change. Marriages shift. But deep down, a knot was forming, tight and unyielding. One Tuesday, I decided to surprise her. I left work early, picked up her favorite flowers, lilies, and drove to the college. The parking lot was nearly empty, the sun dipping low. I figured I'd catch her in her classroom sketched in charcoal dust, grading papers. But her room was dark, the door locked. A janitor mopping the hall said he hadn't seen her all day. My stomach twisted. I called her straight to voicemail. "Hey, babe, just checking in," I said, my voice too cheerful, too hollow. The lilies wilted in my hand as I sat in the car, waiting for a lie I didn't want to hear. Driving home that night, I couldn't shake the unease. The lilies sat on the passenger seat, their petals curling inward like they knew something I didn't. Lisa texted me an hour later. "Sorry, got caught up with a student project. Heading home soon." I stared at the words, replaying them in my head. A student project? At 7 p.m.? On a day she wasn't even at the college? I wanted to call her out, demand answers, but I didn't. I just typed back, "Okay, drive safe," and waited. She walked in at 9, her cheeks flushed, her hair slightly mussed. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag by the door. She didn't notice the flowers on the counter, or if she did, she didn't mention them. "Long day," she sighed, kicking off her shoes. I watched her move through the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water, avoiding my gaze. "How was your day?" she asked, her tone light but rehearsed. "Fine," I said, leaning against the counter. "Stopped by the college earlier. Thought I'd surprise you." Her hand froze mid-sip, just for a second, before she recovered with a laugh. "Oh, I wasn't there. I had to run an errand for the exhibit. Forgot to mention it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I nodded, letting the silence stretch between us. An errand? Sure. That night, she fell asleep quickly, her breathing soft and even. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the cedar scent faint on her pillow. My mind churned. I wasn't a suspicious guy. I didn't snoop, didn't pry, but something pushed me out of bed. Her phone sat on the nightstand, glowing faintly as it charged. I hesitated, my heart pounding, then picked it up. Her passcode was our anniversary, 0412. It unlocked with a soft click. The messages were right there. A thread with a name I didn't know, Evan. My chest tightened as I scrolled. Missed you today, he'd written that morning. Can't wait for Thursday, she'd replied, with a winking emoji. Thursday, 2 days from now. My hands shook as I kept reading. Your husband suspect anything? Evan asked last week. No, he's clueless, she'd typed back. Clueless. The word hit me like a punch. I put the phone down, my vision blurring. Lisa stirred beside me, murmuring something in her sleep. I wanted to shake her awake, demand the truth, but I didn't. Not yet. I needed proof, something concrete, something she couldn't talk her way out of. The next morning, I acted normal, kissed her goodbye, and watched her drive off. Then I called in sick and started planning. Wednesday passed in a haze. I barely ate, barely slept. Every time Lisa spoke, I heard clueless echoing in my head. She chattered about her day, oblivious to the storm building inside me. I nodded, smiled, played the part of the trusting husband while my mind mapped out Thursday. Evan, whoever he was, would be the key. I didn't know his face, but I had his name and her routine. That was enough. I dug deeper that night. Her laptop was password protected, but I'd seen her type it enough times. Picasso 22. It opened to a desktop cluttered with lesson plans and photos. Our wedding, our vacations, her garden. I almost stopped, guilt gnawing at me, but then I opened her email. There it was, a reservation confirmation for a hotel downtown, booked under her name for Thursday afternoon. Evan Carter was CC'd. A quick search on X pulled up his profile. A smug-looking guy, mid-30s, art dealer, all slick hair and pretentious captions. My jaw clenched. This was him. Thursday morning, I told Lisa I'd be home late. Client meeting, I lied. She kissed me, her lips soft and deceitful, and said, "Don't work too hard." I watched her leave, her car disappearing around the corner. Then I grabbed my keys and followed at a distance. She didn't go to the college. Instead, she drove downtown, straight to the hotel from the email. I parked across the street, my hands gripping the wheel as she walked inside, her hips swaying in a dress I'd never seen before. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. The lobby was all marble and dim lighting, the kind of place we'd never afford on our budget. I spotted her at the bar, laughing with him. Evan. He was taller than me, broader, with a confidence I'd never had. His hand rested on her lower back, casual but possessive. She leaned into him, her smile brighter than it had been with me in years. My stomach churned, but I stayed calm. I needed more. I slipped my phone out, zoomed in, and snapped photos. Her hand on his arm, his lips brushing her ear. The bartender glanced my way, so I ordered a coffee I didn't drink and kept watching. They finished their drinks and headed for the elevators, her fingers laced with his. I followed at a distance, heart hammering, and saw them step into room 412. The door clicked shut, and I stood there, frozen, imagining what was happening inside. I didn't barge in. Not yet. Rage burned through me, but I needed control, needed to turn this into something she couldn't escape. I drove home, the photos searing my phone like a brand. My hands shook as I uploaded them to my laptop, staring at her betrayal in high definition. 12 years, and she'd thrown it away for some slick-haired nobody. But I wasn't clueless anymore. I was awake. I spent the afternoon researching Evan Carter. His ex-posts were a goldmine, gallery openings, late-night drinks, a life of shallow charm. He tagged Lisa in a photo months ago, some art event I hadn't been invited to. Best date ever, the caption read. Months. This wasn't new. I cross-checked his name with the hotel's public records. Turns out he was a regular, a preferred guest. My wife wasn't his first conquest, and I doubted she'd be his last. By the time Lisa came home, I'd buried my fury under a mask of normalcy. She walked in at 8, humming, her cheeks still flushed. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her purse. "How was your meeting?" I forced a smile. "Long. "How was your day?" She shrugged, peeling off her coat. "Same old. Grading papers, prepping for the exhibit." Lies rolled off her tongue so easily now. I nodded, watching her move to the kitchen, oblivious to the storm brewing. That night I lay beside her, plotting. Revenge wasn't enough. It had to be precise, devastating, something that'd leave her broken like she'd broken me. I thought about confrontation, divorce, public humiliation, but those were too simple. She'd cry, apologize, move on. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to lose everything she valued, her career, her reputation, her precious Evan. And I'd make sure he paid too. The next morning, I called a private investigator I'd found online, Mike, a gruff ex-cop with a no-nonsense voice. I sent him the photos, the hotel details, Evan's name. "I need everything," I said. "Every dirty secret. Every move they make." Mike grunted. "Give me a week. You'll get your dirt." I hung up, my resolve hardening. This was just the beginning. The week crawled by. Lisa went about her routine, oblivious to the net tightening around her. She'd leave for work, come home late, spin her stories. I stopped asking questions, just watched, her nervous tics, the way she'd check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I played the doting husband, cooking dinner, asking about her day, letting her think she was still in control. Inside, I was a furnace. Every smile she gave me fuel for the fire. Mike called on Wednesday. "Got your dirt," he said, his voice rough over the line. "Meeting you tomorrow, coffee shop on Elm, 10 a.m. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with possibilities. When I met him, he slid a thick envelope across the table. "You sure you want this?" he asked, eyeing me over his coffee. I nodded, tearing it open. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Lisa and Evan at the hotel, at his gallery, in his car. Some were blurry, caught through windows, but others were crystal clear. Her laughing, him pulling her close, their hands tangled. There were receipts too, hotel bills, dinners, a weekend trip to the coast she'd told me was a work conference. And then the kicker, audio files. Mike had bugged Evan's car. I listened later, alone in my truck, as her voice filled the speakers. Giggling, whispering things I'd never heard her say to me. "Dan's so boring," she said once, laughing. "You're the only thing keeping me sane." I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. Boring. Sane. 12 years of building a life together, and I was her prison. The audio cut deeper than the photos, her voice so familiar, twisting the knife. But there was more. Mike had dug into Evan too, tax evasion, shady deals at his gallery, a string of women he'd used and discarded. He wasn't just a sleaze, he was a criminal. Perfect. I thanked Mike, paid him double, and drove home with a plan forming. Lisa wanted excitement, I'd give her chaos. Evan wanted power, I'd strip it away. I'd use every piece of this, her lies, his crimes, to dismantle their world. And I'd make sure they saw it coming, just long enough to feel the dread. The plan crystallized over the next few days. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa's smile in those photos, heard her voice calling me boring. But exhaustion sharpened my focus. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was methodical, a machine grinding toward a single purpose. Revenge wasn't enough unless it was total, unless it left them both hollowed out, stripped of everything they cared about. I'd start with Evan, the weaker link, and let Lisa watch her world collapse around him. I spent hours poring over Mike's files. Evan's gallery was his pride, a sleek downtown space where he schmoozed rich clients and peddled overpriced art. But the tax evasion Mike uncovered was a goldmine. Years of unreported income, fake invoices, cash deals funneled through shell accounts. He wasn't careful. He was arrogant, thinking no one would look too closely. I did. I cross-referenced every shady transaction with public records, building a dossier so tight the IRS wouldn't be able to ignore it. But I didn't stop there. Evan's ego lived online, ex-posts bragging about his genius, his taste. I'd used that too. Lisa came home late again that Friday, her hair damp from a shower she'd claimed was at the college gym. "Busy day," she said, pecking my cheek. I smiled, handed her a glass of wine, and watched her sip it, oblivious. "You look tired," I said, my voice steady. She shrugged. "Yeah, exhibit prep's killing me." I nodded, letting her lie settle between us like dust. She didn't know I'd already mailed an anonymous tip to the IRS about Evan's finances, complete with enough evidence to spark an audit. Step 1. Saturday, I drove to a print shop 2 towns over. I'd compiled the photos. Lisa and Evan tangled up in hotel sheets, laughing at bars, kissing in his car, into a sleek booklet. 50 copies, glossy and professional, titled The Art of Deception. Each page had a timestamp, a location, her face unmistakable. I didn't include my name, just a tagline, "Coming soon to a gallery near you." I'd mail them to Evan's clients, his competitors, his so-called friends. Let them see who he really was. Let the whispers start. That night, I cooked Lisa's favorite lasagna, and we ate in silence. She picked at her food, her phone buzzing beside her. "Work?" I asked casual. She nodded too quickly. "Yeah, a student." I smiled, knowing it was him. She didn't suspect a thing, and that made it sweeter. The IRS would take weeks, maybe months, but the booklets would hit faster. I'd planted the first seed, now I'd watch it grow. Monday morning, I mailed the booklets. 50 envelopes, addressed to every name I'd pulled from Evan's gallery website and ex-followers, collectors, critics, local influencers. I used a P.O. box, paid in cash, wore gloves to keep my prints off them. Paranoid? Maybe. But I wasn't taking chances. I dropped them at a post office across town, the clerk barely glancing at me as the stack thudded into the bin. I drove away feeling lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd been carrying too long. Lisa left for the college or wherever she was really going, chattering about a new painting class. I kissed her goodbye, my lips cold against hers, and watched her car disappear. Then I called Mike again. "Need more," I said. "Tail Evan this week. I want his routine, every move." Mike didn't ask why. "You got it," he grunted, and hung up. I needed to know how Evan would react when the booklets landed, how he'd squirm when his perfect little world started cracking. By Wednesday, the first ripples hit. I'd been monitoring X, and there it was, a cryptic post from one of Evan's collectors. "Some people's art isn't worth the frame it's in." No names, but the timing wasn't coincidence. Then another, "Heard a certain galleries got more drama than talent." The whispers were spreading just as I'd hoped. Evan posted too, a smug deflection. "Haters gonna hate. Business as usual." But I could feel his unease through the screen. Lisa came home rattled that night. "Weird day," she said, tossing her bag down. "What happened?" I asked, stirring soup on the stove. She hesitated, then shrugged. "Just rumors about a friend. People can be so petty." "Friend?" I almost laughed. "Yeah, they can," I said, keeping my tone neutral. She didn't elaborate, but her phone stayed silent. No buzzing, no secret smiles. Evan must have warned her to lie low. Good. Let them sweat. Mike's update came Thursday. "He's jumpy," he said over the phone. "Met your wife at a diner yesterday, argued, kept it short. Today he's been on calls all morning, pacing outside his gallery." I pictured Evan unraveling, his slick hair mussed, his confidence fraying. "Keep watching," I told Mike. "Anything else?" He paused. "Yeah. IRS agent stopped by his place this afternoon. Left with a folder." I grinned. The audit was moving faster than I'd expected. Perfect. Friday was quiet, too quiet. Lisa stayed home, claiming a headache, and spent the day on the couch with a book she didn't read. Her phone sat untouched, and she flinched every time the doorbell rang. I played the concerned husband, brought her tea, tucked a blanket around her, but my mind was elsewhere. Evan's silence on X was deafening. He hadn't posted since his weak haters jab. The booklets had landed, the IRS was sniffing around, and I could feel the noose tightening. Saturday morning, I checked the burner phone I'd bought to track the fallout. Mike texted, "Galleries closed today. Evan's at home, wife's car gone all night." Wife. I froze. Evan was married? I hadn't dug that deep. Assumed he was a bachelor, free to chase whoever he wanted. A quick search confirmed it. Emily Carter, married to Evan 5 years, no kids. Her ex-profile was sparse, just gardening pics and vague quotes. Did she know? Did she care? A new piece clicked into place. Emily could be leverage or collateral damage. I drove to Evan's neighborhood that afternoon. A ritzy area with manicured lawns and overpriced houses. His car was in the driveway, blinds drawn. I parked a block away, watching. A woman pulled up an hour later, petite, brunette, not Lisa. Emily, I guessed. She stormed inside, and muffled shouting drifted through the cracked window. I couldn't hear words, but the tone was sharp, wounded. The booklets must have reached her too. I smiled grimly. Chaos was spreading. Lisa was jittery when I got home. Feeling better? I asked, setting groceries down. She nodded too fast. Yeah, just needed rest. Her eyes darted to her phone, still silent. I cooked dinner, steak, her favorite, and we ate with the TV on, some mindless show she stared through. You okay? I asked, testing her. Fine, she snapped, then softened. Sorry, just stressed. I squeezed her hand, my grip a little too tight. It'll pass, I said. She didn't know how true that was. That night, I emailed Emily from a throwaway account. Your husband's ruining lives, I wrote, attaching a single photo, Lisa and Evan, unmistakable. Thought you should know. No threats, just truth. Let her decide what to do with it. I hit send and shut the laptop, my pulse steady. The cracks were widening. Evan's business, his marriage, his affair. Soon, Lisa would feel it too. Sunday, the storm broke. Lisa's phone finally buzzed at breakfast. Evan's name flashed before she silenced it, her face paling. Work? I asked, sipping coffee. Yeah, she muttered, shoving the phone in her pocket. She barely touched her toast, her leg bouncing under the table. I watched her unravel, piece by piece, and said nothing. She left an hour later, claiming a last-minute meeting. I didn't follow, didn't need to. Mike was on it. His update came at noon. She met him at a park. Looked like a fight. Lots of gesturing, her crying. He left first. She sat there a while. I pictured Lisa on a bench, mascara streaking, realizing her perfect escape was crumbling. Good. Meanwhile, X lit up with more digs at Evan. Clients pulling out. A critic posting, "Gallery's a ghost town." What's the story? The IRS must have spooked his circle. Emily hadn't replied to my email, but her car wasn't at their house when I drove by again. Gone for good? I hope so. Monday, I upped the ante. I'd saved the audio files. Lisa's voice, mocking me, giggling with him. I edited them into a tight clip, her words clear. Dan's so boring. You're the only thing keeping me sane. I uploaded it to a Burner X account, tagged Evan's gallery, and watched it spread. Within hours, it had hundreds of views. Comments piling up. Who's Dan? This guy's a sleaze. Poor husband. Poor husband indeed. I smirked, imagining Evan's panic, Lisa's dread. She came home late, eyes red, hair a mess. Rough day, I asked, chopping vegetables. She nodded, voice small. Yeah. Exhibits a disaster. I hummed, playing along. That's too bad. Need help. She shook her head, retreating to the shower. Her phone stayed on the counter. I checked it while the water ran. Texts from Evan. We need to stop. It's too much. Her reply. I can't lose you. Too late, I thought. She already had. That night, I finalized the next move. Evan's gallery was dying, time to bury it. I'd found a whistleblower site for art fraud, anonymous and legit. I sent them everything, his tax evasion, the fake invoices, names of clients he'd scammed. Let the pros finish him. Lisa would be next. Tuesday, the fallout hit hard. The whistleblower site posted Evan's dirt by morning. Headlined, Gallery Guru's Greed Exposed. X exploded, his name trending locally as clients distanced themselves. Critics piled on, and randoms shared the audio clip like a meme. Boring Dan became a hashtag. Ironic, since I was anything but boring now. I scrolled through it all at work, my cubicle a quiet island in the chaos I'd unleashed. Lisa called me at lunch, her voice shaky. Dan, can we talk tonight? Kept it light. Sure, babe. What's up? She hesitated. Just stuff. I'll explain later. I agreed, knowing she'd try to confess, spin some half-truth to save herself. Let her try. I'd hear her out, then drop the hammer. Mike's final report came that afternoon. Evan's packing up. Galleries locked, movers in. Wife's still AWOL. Your lady's been driving aimlessly, crying on calls. I thanked him, wired the last payment, and burned the burner phone in our backyard grill. No loose ends. When Lisa walked in at 6, she looked like a ghost. Pale, eyes swollen. Hey, she said, voice cracking. I nodded, setting the table. Hey, hungry. We sat, the silence heavy. She pushed food around her plate, then blurted, I've been lying to you. I raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. About what? She swallowed, tears welling. There's someone else, Evan. It's over now, I swear. But She stopped, waiting for me to react. I leaned back, calm. How long? She stared at her hands. 6 months. Lies. It was longer, but I let it slide. Why? I asked, voice flat. I don't know, she whispered. I was stupid. I'm so sorry. I nodded, letting her squirm. Okay. She blinked, confused. Okay? That's it. I smiled cold. What do you want me to say, Lisa? You made your choice. She started sobbing, apologies tumbling out, but I stood, clearing my plate. We'll talk more tomorrow, I said, walking away. She didn't know the worst was coming. Didn't know I'd already turned her confession into my weapon. Lisa's confession hung in the air like smoke, thick and choking, but I didn't let it touch me. Not yet. She spent the night on the couch, curled up under a blanket, sniffling into the darkness. I lay in our bed, her side cold, her scent still lingering, and planned the next strike. She thought her tears would soften me, that sorry could stitch us back together. She didn't know I'd already unraveled her world beyond repair. Evan was crumbling, and now it was her turn to feel the ground give way. Wednesday morning, I left early, kissing her forehead as she stirred. Work, I said, my voice neutral. She nodded, eyes puffy, clinging to hope I hadn't given her. I drove to the college instead, her workplace, where she'd built her little kingdom of paintbrushes and praise. I'd been there before, dropped off lunches, attended her exhibits, but this time I carried a USB drive loaded with everything. The photos, the audio, a timeline of her affair. I wasn't just exposing her to me, I was exposing her to them. The dean's office was tucked in a quiet corner of the admin building, all wood paneling and fake plants. I'd called ahead, anonymous, hinting at misconduct by a faculty member. Dean Hargrove, a stern woman with gray streaks in her hair, met me at the door. You're the tipster? She asked, peering over her glasses. I nodded, handing her the drive. Lisa Bennett, I said, keeping my tone flat. She's been involved with someone. It's all there. Hargrove frowned, plugging it into her laptop. I watched her face harden as she clicked through. Photos first, then the audio. This is serious, she muttered. We'll investigate. I left without giving my name, though she'd figure it out eventually. Didn't matter. The college had a strict ethics code. Relationships with associates weren't just frowned upon. They were grounds for termination if they compromised integrity. Evan wasn't a student, but his gallery had ties to the art department. Close enough. By noon, Lisa would get a call, maybe a meeting. By tomorrow, her job, her identity would be on the line. When I got home, she was pacing, phone in hand. Dan, she said, voice trembling. The dean called. They're looking into something. About me. I raised an eyebrow, feigning concern. What did you do? She shook her head, frantic. I don't know. It's a mistake, it has to be. I shrugged, pouring a glass of water. Hope so. You love that job. She stared at me, searching for something. Anger, forgiveness, but I gave her nothing. Let her drown in the uncertainty. Thursday, the college moved fast. Lisa left in a rush, dressed in her best blazer, muttering about clearing things up. I watched her go, then checked X. Evan's gallery was officially done. Movers had gutted it, and a for lease sign hung in the window. His posts were gone, account private. The IRS had seized his records, according to a local news blurb Mike texted me. Emily hadn't resurfaced. Rumor was she'd lawyered up. Evan was alone, broke, and irrelevant. One down. Lisa came home at 3, shell-shocked. They suspended me, she whispered, sinking into a chair. Pending a full review. Something about ethics violations. Her hands trembled as she rubbed her face. I don't understand. I sat across from her, calm. What did they say? She swallowed. They have evidence. Photos, recordings. Of me and Evan. Her voice broke. Someone sent it to them. I tilted my head. Who'd do that? She didn't answer, just stared at the table, piecing it together too late. I let the silence stretch, then stood. I'm going for a drive, I said. Need anything? She shook her head, mute. I drove to the hotel where it all started, booked room 412, their room under a fake name. I didn't stay, just took photos of the bed, the bar, the elevator, and emailed them to her from another throwaway account. No message, just the images. Let her see the ghosts of her betrayal. Let her wonder who was watching. When I got back, she was crying again. Phone clutched to her chest. Dan, she choked. Someone's sending me things. From the hotel. I frowned, playing dumb. Weird. Show me. She did, hands shaking. I nodded. That's creepy. Maybe call the police. She couldn't. She knew why it was happening. That night, I packed a bag. Work trip, I lied, tossing it by the door. Back in a few days. She nodded, hollow-eyed, too broken to argue. I left her there, the house quiet except for her muffled sobs. Step 2 complete, her career in ruins, her mind fraying. Now for the finale. I didn't go far, just a motel an hour away, cheap and anonymous. I needed space to finish this, to tie the last knot. Lisa texted me that night. I'm so sorry. Please come home. We can fix this. I didn't reply. Let her stew in the wreckage. She'd lost her lover, her job, her stability, everything she'd traded me for. But it wasn't enough. She had to feel the betrayal like I had, visceral and unending. Friday, I called our lawyer, Tom, from a payphone. Need divorce papers drafted, I said. Irreconcilable differences. Tom didn't pry, knew me well enough to hear the edge in my voice. Give me a day, he said. Anything else? I paused. Yeah, she gets nothing. House is in my name, savings too. Prove she cheated. He whistled low. Got evidence? I smirked. Tons. I sent him Mike's files, photos, receipts, the works. Adultery wouldn't kill her claim entirely, but it'd weaken it. I'd bought the house before we married. She'd have to fight for scraps. Next, I hit her where it'd hurt most, her art. She'd spent years building a name in the local scene, small but respected. I'd always supported it. Funded her supplies, framed her pieces. No more. I contacted a gallery owner she'd pitched to last year. A woman named Claire who'd liked her work. Got some pieces for sale, I said, using a burner number. Lisa Bennett's. She's moving, needs them gone cheap. Claire bit. Bought 5 canvases for pennies. Ones Lisa had poured her soul into. I shipped them from the motel, her signature stark on each one. When she noticed them missing, she'd feel the theft of her passion. I checked X again. Evan was a pariah, his name poison. Lisa's suspension had leaked too. A colleague posted, "Shame to lose talent over bad choices." The comments were brutal, her reputation shredded. I smiled, cold and satisfied. She'd wake up to a life she didn't recognize, and I'd be the shadow behind it. Saturday, I drove back. The house was a mess. Dishes piled, blankets strewn. Lisa a wreck on the couch. "You're back," she croaked, sitting up. Her hair was tangled, eyes sunken. "Yeah," I said, dropping my bag. "We need to talk." She nodded, bracing herself. I sat across from her, hands folded. I know everything, I started, voice even. Evan, the hotel, the lies. 6 months? Try a year. Her mouth opened, but I cut her off. Don't. I've seen the photos, heard you call me boring. It's done. She crumpled, sobbing. Dan, I messed up. I'll do anything, therapy, whatever you want. I shook my head. Too late. Papers are coming tomorrow. We're over. Her face twisted, panic setting in. What? No, you can't. I have nothing left. I leaned forward, eyes hard. You had me. You chose him. Now you've got what you wanted, excitement. She wailed, clutching her knees, but I stood, unmoved. I'm staying upstairs tonight. Don't talk to me. Sunday, Tom delivered the papers. Lisa signed them, hands shaking, tears smudging the ink. Where am I supposed to go? She whispered. Not my problem, I said, taking my copy. She stared at me, broken, then grabbed her purse and left. I didn't watch her go. Didn't need to. The house was mine again, quiet and empty. I poured a drink, sat on the porch and breathed. Step 3, her marriage, her home, gone. That afternoon, I got a call from Claire. Lisa's pieces sold fast, she said. Collectors loved them. Want me to send the cash? I smiled. Keep it. Burn the rest if she sends more. Claire laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. Lisa's art was ash to me now, just like her life with me. Monday, I changed the locks. Lisa texted once, "Can I get my stuff?" And I replied, "Porch tomorrow. Don't knock." She didn't argue. I boxed her clothes, her books, her gardening tools, and left them outside like trash. She came at dawn, a shadow in the gray light, loading her car silently. I watched from the window, feeling nothing. No pity, no regret. She drove off and that was it. 12 years, erased. Evan surfaced online that week. A desperate post about starting fresh in another city. Didn't matter. His career was dead, his wife gone, his name mud. The IRS had frozen his accounts. He'd be lucky to avoid jail. Lisa called the college, begging for her job, but Hargrove shut her down. Ethics breach confirmed. She'd moved in with a friend. I heard through the grapevine, scraping by on savings that wouldn't last. Her paintings never resurfaced. Claire had spread word they were tainted. I sold the house a month later, pocketed the cash, and moved west, new job, new life. No one knew me there, no one asked about the past. I didn't date, didn't look back. The revenge was complete, crueler than I'd imagined. Evan a husk, Lisa a ghost, both stripped bare by their own hands and mine. I'd built bridges for a living, but this time I'd burned one to the ground. And it felt right.